bill. He listened to the more than 80% of gun owners, Democrats, Republicans, and independents alike who believe in responsible gun ownership through permitting systems with high safety standards. Now it's time for our lawmakers to do the same and uphold that veto. Today, we've heard from a business owner, from a student, law enforcement, and mayors across the state. We need to remember the impact of reckless policies is felt in real lives. It's felt by people here today, by the communities of Huntersville, High Point, Orange County, and Sampson County. We are asking to be heard before decisions are made that affect our well-being. Our communities deserve leaders who prioritize safety over ideology. Lawmakers must keep our communities safe and uphold this veto. Thank you. And now we will open up to questions from the media.
If you have a question, you can put it in the chat, or I believe you have the ability to raise your hand and I'll get a notification and enable you to have speaking permission. Sorry, I see your hand raised. I'm moving over there right now. We'll start with Chris Peterson.
There we go. Hi, everyone. I'm sorry you can't see me. My name is Chris Peterson. I'm with WXII TV in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I was wondering, I was wondering how many of you or what the thoughts were on the possibility of this even being vetoed, because from what I can see, it would be an uphill climb for Republicans to even override the governor's veto. So is there a real fear out there that this bill will be, the veto will be overridden in the next session?
I can take that one. I'm a former state legislator, and so I can say that having served there, you never know until the moment of the vote what the representatives are going to do. And so because of that, I think it's important for us to continue to advocate for this, to make sure that every person has heard the message and that every representative and senator knows that it is a priority for us to sustain this veto. I see that Kenneth Lee has a question for me. What impacts do I expect locally? If you talk to the police chief in the town of Huntersville, he will tell you that over 70% of the petty larcenies that come from vehicles are guns that are stolen from vehicles. And so that means that more illegal guns end up on our streets, and that makes it less safe for us here. And so I think that I won't speak for him, but I think that the impact here will be that there will be more illegal guns on our streets. And so what we're trying to do is prevent that by making sure people keep their guns locked in places that are not their cars. And so that's a lesson that we are continuously advocating for. What we don't want to have is have our law enforcement be less safe in the line of duty as well. Huntersville is a pretty safe place, but I never want our officers to have to come upon a gun that they don't know is there and that someone has not been trained and had a background check to use. See the participants, so let's see.
Do we have any more questions? I see one more from Martha.
Hi, my name is Martha Dieter. I'm just a concerned citizen, former educator. So that's always the concentration of my interest. And recently, a friend of mine who's an EMS in Wake County was called to a school incident of a fight. And it really was just a couple teenage boys that were hot-headed. One boy ended up being pepper sprayed by a police officer. And he and I were lamenting on how if a gun was present on this scene, probably someone would have been shot or possibly killed. And I think this is an area that has to get tremendous effort put into it, because this concealed carry opens up so many problem areas with people having guns when they're not trained, they're not properly skilled in this area, and the accidents or potential accidents are just very, very frightening. So for anybody's response, I think it's just so important that we remain active and vigilant on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha. Any other questions? You can type them in the Q&A box or raise your hand.
Okay, it looks like there's one question in the Q&A box from Rose.
The question is, I'm wondering how much of an impact is national politics having on this bill and gun issues overall in NC? Rachel, do you want to take that one?
Absolutely. I'm Rachel Everytown. I do state government affairs here. Obviously, it's a very complicated political situation right now nationally, and there's always an impact to states, especially in North Carolina. It's a bit of a swing state. We're one of the few states with a divided government. We have a Democratic governor and a Republican legislature, and even a Republican sitting majority in the Senate. So there definitely are a lot of pressures that lawmakers are feeling. Historically, Republican leadership in the Senate hasn't been opposed to this kind of bill. Year after year, we've seen them say Trump was carried a step too far for North Carolina. This year, that changed, and we can only, make our estimations based on what we're seeing politically. But it does seem like political pressures from DC and from, leadership in other places is pushing, the Republican leadership here in North Carolina to say, okay, maybe we do need this bill now. No one in North Carolina is asking for it. We've seen about 80% of North Carolinians, including gun owners, independents, Republicans, say they don't want parental carry. In particular, they don't want to lower the age from 21 to 18 for concealed carry. So we know this isn't North Carolinians that are specifically asking for this bill, so we can only assume that's political pressures coming from, from DC or from other broader parties. So we definitely think that is having a big impact on this legislation and other legislation that we're seeing other legislature this year.
Thank you, Rachel. The next question is for Sheriff Blackwood. It says, can the sheriff expand on why he is opposed to the bill from a law enforcement perspective?
Well, there's a number of reasons. One is if you read the actual bill itself, you'll notice that it's extremely complex and intricate. And anytime you have to take that much time to address something, there's a problem there. There's going to be a problem. The other issue that I have is that of the reducing the age of 8 to 18 years old. We know that the adolescent brain is not fully developed, and the age group of 13 to 18 are our risk takers. And there are some current studies that suggest that risk taking creates habituation, which allows or actually changes or transforms the brain to want to continue risk taking. So we're talking about placing guns in the hands of risk takers who are more prone to make bad decisions. And like the question earlier about what would happen at school, these kids don't think about outcomes. They think about the event. And unless and until our children, and they are children, are available to form good decisions and grow into adulthood is what we want to see them do, we can't guarantee for their safety. We have, for the first time in history, seen the number of deaths due to guns for our youth absolutely top our deaths by motor vehicle accidents. And that's I don't want to create a bill and say, well, let's see what happens. We know what's going to happen. We can look around us and see what's happened. So from a law enforcement standpoint, it's a complex bill. It's got a lot of issues that concern me about officer safety, but I worry about our youth. Our youth is our treasure. They're who are going to be taking care of us. And if they're not here to do that, we're in a sad place. And I just hope that common sense prevails in this argument.
Thank you, Sheriff. Our next question is from Laura Leslie with WRAL. It says, given the polling numbers on this issue, why do you think this bill passed the legislature? So having been in the General Assembly, I can never speak for what goes on behind closed caucus doors. But from the perspective of a person who's been active in gun violence prevention for several years, I can say that there is a misguided belief that safe gun laws are anti-Second Amendment, and that's just not true. And so when I think about what's happening in the caucuses, I think they have this misunderstanding of what a safe gun law is, and that you must always be supporting the Second Amendment. That means you pass any gun law that comes before you that loosens gun laws. And so that's really not the case, and that's been shown across the country in places where strong gun laws have been passed. People still have access to guns in the way that they should. They're trained, they get background checks, they can use them for sporting and for hunting. And I think, in my opinion of having been there, that's what I observed from the General Assembly when I was there. And I think that's something we can continue to work on and educate legislators that safe gun laws are not in contradiction to the Second Amendment. Any other questions?
Okay, if we don't have any other questions, I think that concludes this call. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here, and thank you to our speakers. If, as Dalen mentioned in her remarks, you can text NC to 64433 to get involved. And thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you, Olivia.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everyone.
Thank you all.